Hey everyone, this is Rosemarie from the Unfinished Lesson, and this is another Quick Win series. In this particular series, we're going to take a look at how to host an online lesson, fun online group lessons. If you didn't watch video 1, be sure to go back and watch that. I not only cover why we should be doing online group lessons, but also how I make this happen in my studio. If you think that I teach group lessons every week, that's actually not the case. I teach primarily private lessons, and then group lessons are sprinkled throughout the year. So hopefully that makes that feel just a little less scary. In this particular video 2, we're going to take a look at performing. So some teachers love using group lessons as a chance for students to perform. I've always been kind of on the fence in terms of, do I want my students to perform every group lesson? If they're performing, what is the purpose of it? Because in my studio, we kind of focus on the fun. It doesn't mean we don't work hard. It doesn't mean we don't put our best effort into recitals when we do them in our studio, but it's not the be all end all. So how do we make performing happen in online group lessons, especially when, if say you're in Zoom and you've got multiple cameras going and stuff, or like multiple screens going with your students, how do you make this happen? All right, well, let's look at group lessons like this. Group lessons can be a low pressure environment or event for students to perform in, especially if you have students that get nervous at recitals for performing there. Group lessons and maybe having them play one song at each group lesson builds them up so that by the time that they get to the recital where it feels a bit more high pressure, they're feeling more comfortable. And we can cover a lot of different skills in terms of performing in a group lesson. We can cover things like effective practice in the weeks before. We know that it isn't about how long a student practices, it's about what they practice and how they practice, but that would be a totally different video. And so we can cover that in the weeks ahead of time because there's a goal, right? You're going to play this song at the group lesson. Let's make sure that your practice is effective. We can also cover things like performance etiquette. So we've all had the students that they finish playing and before the last note has fully played, like they are off that bench and they are in the audience. And if you're online, it can happen as well. And so we can talk about etiquette and go through it in terms of before you go, all right, you can take a bow if you want them to take a bow. In terms of audience participation, we can cover things like that. We want to make sure we're clapping. And yeah, we can make sure we cover active listening. How many times have we had it that our students, they play something and they think they played it great and we're listening and going, no, it was not great. By having our students actively listen and training them to listen like we listen, it will help them practice better. So even though, yes, they're performing in the group lesson and it's low pressure, because they're listening to everyone else, they get a chance to hear what we're hearing. And that brings me to one of my last concepts that we cover when we do performing in a group lesson, and that is positive feedback. So in my studio, we focus a lot on positive feedback. It doesn't mean we don't acknowledge when something went wrong, but we say something like, you know what? I really, really loved how you kept going. You didn't stop. Even though I could tell that you struggled a little bit in a section, you kept going. And that's a really important performance skill. We're focusing more on the positives that they kept going. We're acknowledging that, yeah, okay, everything wasn't perfect, but we focused on the positive part of it. And so training students to do this as they're giving feedback, one, sometimes feedback means more when it's from your peers, especially at particular age groups. As teachers, we can get a little bit of a rep for maybe we're just always positive, or maybe we always find things wrong. And so hearing it from peers sometimes makes it a little bit more meaningful. So that's a lot of things that are covered, right? Just from having your students play one song, maybe two songs in your group lesson. What I also like to do is have a practice challenge before the group lesson, because some students, they need to have not only a goal, but they need a little friendly cooperation or friendly competition. And that I'm going to talk about in a different video for this series. But oftentimes what I do is I have it that all of us are practicing for the group lesson. Yes, all of us, including me. I will often make sure that I prepare a song because I tell my students I don't ask them to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And so it keeps me on my toes because I have to make time to practice, but also I have like a leaderboard that's created, and they get points for every time that they practice. It's actually double points because they get their regular points and then they also get points for the competition. And as long as they can beat me in terms of their practice, they get a bonus. So it really keeps my students on their toes, and they're kind of cheering each other on as they're doing this because it's really fun to beat the teacher. So, and it's a pretty easy way to do it. You could do it like digitally, or you could even create something that's just like on the wall and you update it each lesson. And that way it doesn't have to be like this high-tech thing. So before you go on with the rest of your day, here's what I would like you to do. So in video 1, you had a goal. Whatever you wrote down for that one, which was when you were going to hold this group lesson, I would like you to write down how are you going to make performing, if you're going to include an element of performing in the group lesson, how are you going to make it low pressure? Is it going to be a friendly competition before, like I do? Is it having that students can give active, positive feedback as like after students play? Whatever it is, write it down. Let me know in the comments below, okay? All right. I hope you have an incredible day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.